right into UFC 246 review. We're going to start with the upset, the big upset, the train that got derailed, but the fight that we called. Maycee Barber lost to Roxanne Modafferi, who at the time of we recorded our podcast was a plus 600 underdog, and by decision was plus 1100. If you remember us talking about those. Maycee Barber, according to her, tore her ACL 10 seconds into the fight and just couldn't handle what Roxanne was throwing down. According to Roxanne, it was likely more in the second round when she saw her step awkwardly in her knee buckle. Whichever way you want to go with that, doesn't really matter because Roxy won. Modafferi won. My only sad moment was I didn't actually end up betting this fight, and it hurts so bad.
Poor Bob, dude. Bob was busy. Bob was so busy with his family.
I talked about betting on it in our end of the year show on bets I was looking forward to. I talked about betting her straight would be such a good play. I talked about betting her by decision would be even better play because that's likely the way she's going to win. And I had every intention to. And then you know what? Sometimes schedules get in the way of doing the hard-hitting research. But you know, we still give you guys winners. And if you followed our leanings, you made a lot of money on this fight. So I still think Maycee Barber is going to be a force in this division. She's still so young, man. She's so young that she has a chance to come back and really make a name for herself and just blow up in this division. Kudos to Roxanne Modafferi for getting another big upset win over an up-and-coming name. And here's hoping she actually gets a little bit of payment for it. Mike, how'd you feel about this fight? And where do you see Barber and Roxanne going from here?
Oh, well, man, the whole fight, obviously, I was thinking about you and I's conversation about how this fight was going to play out. We certainly weren't one of those suckers who put Maycee Barber in a parlay or put her in anything in our bet slips. We would never trust an overhyped young girl like that in the sense of she's fighting a veteran. Like Bob was the first one to call this. I'm not going to take the credit for like steering us towards this. This was mostly and all Bob. He presented it to me, and then once I heard how much faith he had in Roxanne and the fact that big upsets are the things that do happen, and I was just like, wow, I think it's really could happen. And then we decided that if she was going to win, she would most likely win going to decision. That's just like she was not going to pull off some crazy submission or anything or knock her unconscious. So it's just crazy that you and I were one of the only people who would have bet on her or did, and called her, especially for her to win by decision. And so I hope that some of you guys listened to us and made some money because I know we made a lot of people happy.
Well, again, kudos to the happy warrior. Will forever be a friend of this podcast, and we'll keep our eyes open for any time she's going to go into another hype job who doesn't quite have the all-around skills yet to beat someone that has been in the game that long. Now, that was my gloating because I called this one in a major way, but you know what? Want to know who else we need to throw it to? We need to throw it to Mike, because in the very next fight, Anthony Pettis fought and lost to Carlos Diego Ferreira, and by sub, all the things Mike called. It was part of his parlay that he gave out. Mike, feel free to glow on CDF's amazing jiu-jitsu.
Well, man, you guys got the pleasure of Bob and I's how we break down fights and getting into our minds and how we analyze things. I told you, there's different levels of jiu-jitsu in this game. There's obviously black belts, and then there's first degree, second degree, third degree, and then there's people who just get gifted black belts because they're cute or they, paid a lot of money at their gym. But Carlos Diego Ferreira is not one of those guys. His jiu-jitsu, like I told you guys on the podcast, his top control, his transitioning, everything is so butter smooth. The only thing that I was really, really pissed off about was in the first round, he had Anthony Pettis' back. He did not secure the position with the body triangle, which is just totally off cue for a black belt. I know that you can still have other options by not, but it's definitely, he could have easily, in my opinion, got him in that body triangle and then secured him and just put him to sleep. But I really truly believe they didn't want that to end in round one. So it was round two, right? He got sub. Was it one?
I believe it was 2. I will double check.
So it was 2. And so I was just pissed that it happened in round 1, and then it came in round 2. So it made me really happy. And I just love making you guys money out there. And I just hope that you guys tune in and take Bob and I serious, because we really take the time out of our professional schedules. Bob runs a professional company for his family, and he works really hard, waking up early in the morning. 4 a.m. is he's already up and running for real and literally. And I'm up at 4:30, ready to go to Hollywood to start building stuff for the studio. So we do all these things, and we spend our time to break down things for you guys, and just in the hopes that we could give you a better edge on your bets.
Oh, absolutely. And yes, that was round 2, about halfway through. And I just remember, while watching this fight as it unfolded, because we were both very high on Diego Ferreira. You were high on Diego Ferreira for all the right reasons, that how talented he is and everything like that. And as I forewarned on the preview podcast, most of my huge up for Diego Ferreira was my complete down on Anthony Pettis. Mm-hmm. But you know what? They both interceded, and it ended up being right on both sides. Actually, that reminds me, I'm sorry, we skipped a little bit ahead. The first fight we were supposed to go over was our first bet that won that night, and half of that parlay that cashed for Mike. Askar Askarov beat one-time title challenger Tim Elliott by unanimous decision and nearly had the finish in the first round. He landed some heavy shots. I'm surprised it wasn't called. It got a little bit closer as the fight progressed. As you can tell, Askar Askarov was starting to slow somewhat, and Elliott was just doing shaking his head, trying to wave Askarov towards him, and then throwing 1 or 2 strikes, and then doing the same thing, trying to make it seem that Askarov wasn't doing anything, even though sheer output, he was clearly beating Elliott. Was a little bit nervous for the scorecards, because sometimes the type of antics that Elliott does can kind of sway judges. But I thought it was a very, very clear win for Askar Askarov, and that was our first bet of the night that won you guys 1 unit. He was minus 135 against Tim Elliott. And then going back, the parlay that we scored for you guys, which was Mike's bet, started with Askar Askarov and finished with Carlos Diego Ferreira submitting Anthony Pettis, which gave us a perfect night, even at that point, just from the podcast. So, Mike, if you have anything to say about Askar Askarov versus Tim Elliott, I know I'm kind of going a little bit backwards here, but any additional thoughts there?
Yeah, the fight was really exciting, especially that first round. I couldn't believe that Tim Elliott took those strikes, and he was literally standing there unconscious. I don't think I've seen a fighter lose consciousness standing and then come back to it. But it was just incredible that he could do that. So mad props to Elliott for being the warrior that he is. But the truth of the matter is that output, numbers wise, and volume, like we talked about, was winning on the scorecards, and not to mention the power. It doesn't even matter if it was a jab or his power punch. Askar Askarov has some heavy hands for being a small guy, and so it was impressive. I'm happy he got the win, but certainly when the judges read the scorecards, I was shitting bricks.
Well, and this is a perfect example of how me and Mike have talked about how much we like volume strikers, because all other things being equal, they're winning the fight. I'm sorry, they just are. Obviously, sometimes the judges kind of screw you every once in a while, but in general, give me a pressure fighter who can constantly throw and outland. I'm going to go with them most every time. Now, we're going to briefly touch, not even break it down, and you'll understand why in a second. The next fight that was on this fight card, Alyssa Grasso was supposed to fight Claudia Gadelha, but then she missed weight by 6 pounds. 6 pounds over the limit, I believe, or at least 6 pounds over the agreed upon weight. I hope the only reason I'm upset is they may remake this fight. I actually hope they do, because I was debating betting Claudia Gadelha, and then now if they do it, I would for sure bet her. The only downside is typically when something like this happens and someone misses weight by that bad, the odds in the rematch reflect it. So like the odds where Alexa Grasso was minus 115 versus Claudia Gadelha minus 105. It's not even a rematch, but if they reschedule this fight, guaranteed Claudia Gadelha is going to open at least a minus 30, minus 45, something like that, favorite for whatever reason, because it got canceled because of one side. It flip-flops the other side just because of, I don't know, they are gauging interest of people going in. So I just wanted to briefly go over that. And I'm sorry, that kind of weight miss just completely throws me for a loop because that wasn't even close. Do you have anything to say about that awful weight cut? Hopes for them rebooking, or should we move on to the boa constrictor?
Yeah, other than the rude comments that I made while you were talking, I obviously did that on purpose for you fans. I don't mean to talk over Bob. It's just I'm just crazy, so I wanted to do it. It's unprofessional. It's disgusting as a pro fighter for you to do that. The only reason she did that, she was scared. To me, I really thought she was going to get submitted by Claudia. But you and I both were high on Claudia, so that was that, and it just sucked to not have another bout for the fights.
Now, I actually do have to give some credit in the next fight. And not who you think I'm going to give credit for. Well, let's just quick go with this way. Alexei Olenek, the now 62 fight pro fight veteran, fought Morris Green. He actually got the submission there. But actually, who I'm impressed with is Morris Green. I knew the submission was going to happen for Alexei Olenek, but I did it in a little bit more of a simplistic way. It's Olenek versus a non-elite heavyweight. And I mean elite like top 5, 6, 7, somewhere in there. When he fights those guys, he submits them. He just does. He finds a way. He gets there. He does it. Maurice Green throwing up a triangle from bottom, escaping the choke in the first round. I was shocked. I'm very impressed with Maurice Green going forward. And actually, I view him higher in his future than if he just would have gotten a quick knockout and beaten Olenek. But you know what? Kudos to Olenek. He's the man. And because of his submission win, MMA Gangster, who also gives out free plays for you guys at MMAforMoney.com, in his props article, had Alexei Olenek by sub at plus 180. So he won you guys another 1.8 units. Mike, you got anything going on for Alexei Olenek versus Maurice the Crochet Boy, if I got that right?
Yeah, it just pretty much turned out exactly how you and I said. Super unpredictable in the sense of we didn't want to bet it or have any sense of the part of it because heavyweight fights are really weird and hard to judge. I liked Green for his striking, and I favored him more, and you favored Olenek in that sense. So you won the fight, and when we had not a disagreement, but when we talked, I definitely thought Green had the higher ceiling, and he definitely showed that. Like you saw, he's not just some striker; he definitely is someone trying to do something, and it made the fight really exciting because Olenek was not wanting any part of that on the feet. Like I said, I knew that he was not going to want to be hit by Green, and once he felt it was going to be a mad dash to the ground. And I'm surprised that the Green couldn't get him out of there before he got him down. But it was still a great fight for the two heavyweights. I mean, we've seen some heavyweight fights that are so terrible that we boo them all the way, you know. So Olenek's super impressive, man. I can't. It's kind of ridiculous how good the old man is, and I just can't say enough good things about that old man.
Sorry, the Maurice Green is the Crochet Boss. I don't know, I thought it was boy. But he has some major upside. It's like I said, like you said, and he's only 33. That's super young for a heavyweight. He's 6'7", 82-inch reach, 243 pounds. I mean, like, he has a good chance to be fairly good. Like, I'm impressed. And honestly, the only reason that Olenek is doing a lot is, I mean, he's older. I mean, I'm pretty sure his career has spanned like 3 weight classes. I'm pretty sure he started at middleweight way back in the day, and now he's just slowly progressed up to heavyweight because he's so much better on the ground than most any heavyweight he would ever fight, except maybe like Verdum, that he has just an extreme advantage. And if it gets there, he's gonna get you. There's one fight we didn't preview, but we could just review a little bit, I suppose, because it got bumped up to the main card after Alexa Grasso and Gadea got removed. Brian Kelleher got a much needed submission win. He got a guillotine choke over O'Day Osborne. Sorry. The only reason I want to bring up this fight is the fact that he had such a tight squeeze and submission that O'Day had to tap with his foot hitting against the back of Brian Kelleher's leg, and I just thought that was beautiful. Mike, got anything to say about that ridiculous submission or happy for Brian Kelleher that he finally got a win on the last fight of his contract?
I hate him, dude. I'm so pissed. And the reason why I'm pissed is I rarely go and do a degenerate parlay, which means I rarely go over 2 fighters if I'm going to do a parlay because it's just so hard to cash 1 or 2.
Well, 1 second, Mike. Just a quick pause. Just to quick explain, a degenerate parlay is a parlay of a lot of big favorites, usually 3 to 5, if not more, fighters are involved. For those of you who don't know what that is.
So I fucking believed in Askar Askarov, Carlos Diego Ferreira, Yodik Yusuf, and then I somehow got so greedy that I had to throw in a little Ude, whatever you want to say. I don't even want to comprende. I don't like the guy, dude. I hate him now. I hate both of them. They've ruined me, dude. I threw out a 1 unit parlay that was gonna be 7 units back. I never do something so stupid like this, and I was so close, dude. All 3 of them won, and then that stupid cheeseball little prick did that to me, dude. And we had the best night for MMA for Money. I still had the best night. It's crazy how you could win so many units and then still be such a greedy piece of shit where 1 unit haunts me. 1 unit. It's not like I had 7 or 8 that I was going to win. It was just 1, but it's 7 that I felt like I had in my hand and I got robbed, bro. That's it.
And stuff like that happens. Even previously when we were talking about on this card, me talking all that glorious things about Roxanne Modafferi, but never actually placing the bet. It's like that money was as good as mine, but if you don't make the bet, you don't win it. Or if you make too big of a parlay, one of them drops, and that's the tricky part with parlays, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But moving on. So Holly Holm, who Mike was super high on, and I wasn't down on her. I just think at some point she is going to show up old. But apparently that's not yet. She's still too far ahead of everybody with everything. Mike was glowing on her striking. Holly Holm had a clear decision win over Raquel Pennington and maintains the top 5 status, I suppose you can say. Mike, could you go into this performance? How'd you feel about it? It was like a little bit more clinch heavy than I would have liked to have seen, but dominant win for Holly Holm.
Yeah, I mean, I love Holly Holm, so a win's a win. I think the fans forget that their job is to go in there and to get a win, and that's it. It's any means necessary. Holly Holm just came off getting knocked out by Nunez. You could tell she definitely was a little bit more shy striking than she normally was, and she didn't want to take big strikes. So I was a little disappointed in that sense, but Holly Holm's Holly Holm. She's a beautiful person and soul. And so I'm just happy that she got a win, that she's still in the UFC and going to be pushing her name. And then if you saw those photo shoot pictures today, I mean, she does a body good.
Now that was the co-main event to, I'm not going to say a lackluster card because it was actually fairly entertaining, but in terms of name value, really this was a 1-fight card. And that fight did not disappoint. Conor McGregor straight annihilated, mauled, destroyed, disintegrated. I'm going to go with disintegrated. That's going to be my favorite one so far. He disintegrated Cowboy Cerrone. And I'm not going to say that he invented the shoulder strike or that because he didn't, but I've never seen it used that effective. He broke the nose with just 2 shots of it. I think the breakdown I heard is he broke the nose with 2 shoulder shots to the nose. He bruised the orbital with that flying knee that he threw, and then put him out with about 2 more shots. It was a 41-second fight, and I don't think I've ever seen a 41-second fight that ends with the finish where I could honestly say I think the ref gave Donald Cerrone every opportunity to fight back. It was a super clean stoppage, very warranted, and oh my goodness, was that an insane fight. My only regret was the interview that we both saw that we had talked about on the last show of putting some money down on rounds 1 and 2. So honestly, here's hoping you listened to us and didn't look for us on Twitter later, and you went with that because then you made even more money. But we got scared off because he made it seem like he wanted to get some rounds in to ease back into it, and that scared us off enough. Because honestly, sometimes those interviews are a nice way to lean into how a fighter's thinking on fight week. But apparently, he saw too good of an opportunity, he took it. So kudos to anyone that had the round 1, round 2 for Conor McGregor. As we said, if you were going to bet him, that's the way to bet him. And man, he looked good. What do you see for him next, and how do you feel about that performance?
I mean, the performance is hard to judge. I knew that he was going to destroy Cowboy. Bob and I told you he was going to destroy him in the first round or the second round. There was no winning for Donald Cerrone. It wasn't happening. UFC wasn't letting it happen. There's nothing for Donald Cerrone like there is for Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor now can go back to being their little golden boy, pony child, whatever you want to call him, and have a Khabib rematch, which he doesn't deserve, which they're going to let him have anyways, most likely, because it generates numbers. And or it could be Gamebred Masvidal for the BMF title, which would be huge in itself, and I would be jazzed. So there's tons of options now, and we're going to have all kinds of exciting things. I guess the UFC is better when Conor's in there because it's kind of like Tiger Woods when he's winning in PGA. It's just way better to watch. So I'm happy that Conor's back. I'm happy that he won, and he did act more gracious and more professional, and definitely more like a mixed martial artist and a father should. And so it was cool in that sense. But we saw nothing of Conor's abilities to go into round 3, 4, and 5 with an extra gas tank. We didn't see him face adversity of any kind. So not like it's just all smoke and mirrors and jibber jabber. I can't wait till they match up with Khabib again, and Khabib just slam him down the ground, whoop his ass, and you and I will all get money. Hopefully it's a better line.
After just this one fight, I'm not sure be a better line. For sure, if he has another one in between and it's an impressive performance, it doesn't even have to be this impressive, just like another finish. Like if he would fight another top name and get a finish, whether it be Justin Gaethje or whoever, then if he fights Khabib after that, for sure, it would be a closer to even odds number. And then if Khabib makes it through Tony, which everyone keeps forgetting to talk about Tony, and I'm starting to lean Tony in that fight just because I just think I think that fight could end with a cut stoppage because you got 5 rounds of even if Khabib is on top, he's getting elbows. But before we get into that, because that fight's way down the line, we're going to move on. One quick thing is they had said that, or I think it was Dana White quote, said that the pay-per-views are trending to be over 2 million, which is awesome. And that would be the highest ever since they've been on the ESPN Plus pay-per-view platform. I'd be curious to find out what that means, because as far as I understand it, the way the ESPN pays out is for every pay-per-view the UFC is paid as if it does 500,000. So what's the incentive of it being a higher grossing pay-per-view? How do pay-per-view points work, given the fact that it's not in the typical manner and the numbers were kind of on a downtrend considering it was just on ESPN Plus? I'd just be curious on how all those factors work in. I do see since it's through ESPN Plus and they don't have to split any of it with the cable providers, they get a bigger percentage as is. So technically, I would think that UFC, even if this is just 2 million and the Khabib one, it was more than that. I think it was like 2.4, technically more buys. I would think that the UFC makes more with just the 2 million on ESPN Plus since they get a bigger percentage. But I don't know. That's getting a little bit too into the woods.